behalf of the Misneach Memorial Committee, I am honoured to welcome you to this year's service, where we remember the 21 people who lost their lives and the more than 200 injured on the night of the Birmingham Pub Bombings. Just around the corner from here, on the 21st of November 1974, 2 bombs were exploded in the Tavern in the Town pub and in the Mulberry Bush pub. Bombs which trauma and destruction changed this city forever. On the anniversary of the pub bombings, we come together here to our new tree memorial on the concourse of Grand Central to pay our respects to those who lost their lives and to stand with the families. This year is a little bit different from usual. Normally we all come here together, but because of the coronavirus pandemic, this year we need to bring the service to you where you are. We come together to mourn the lives of those that we have lost in a spirit of peace, hope and reconciliation. Birmingham was changed forever on the night of the pub bombings, but our solidarity, our decency and our community remain very much intact.
On the 21st of November, in the year of 74, that winter's night did blaze with light and with a deadly roar. 2 bombs ripped through and tore into the tavern and the bush, where survivors cried, where so many died in the panic and the crush. Now a shadow fell between our kind, and we were held to blame. Though grief that night, the dreadful plight, was done not in our name. The trouble's toll now reached our shores, with reprisals in its train. With our heads held low, bore insult and blow, until sanity reigned again. Now those years have passed and there's peace at last between the Saxon and the Gaels. In the shade of these memorial trees, I pray that peace prevails. For the path of peace it must not cease, no matter price or toll. For no cause or fight can be deemed as right for the taking of a soul. For no cause or fight can be deemed as right in the taking of a soul.
Last year a critic questioned the inclusion of divinity during my reading. With deference to my critic, I say this: death and pain and grief is a diabolical trinity respecting neither nation nor political boundaries. Such anguish should unite us all, yet seek so often to divide us. To my critic I offer one word, a word which has motivated us through many an impasse, and that word is dochas, hope, to bring about a cessation to the indiscriminate killings on both sides of any political or national divide. To examine with our hearts rather than our eyes, to see the complex rather than the tainted obvious. Where others fail or refuse to comprehend, the hopeful can lead the way. Hope is to see our world free from terms like collateral damage and acceptable losses. Acceptable to whom? Certainly not the grieving families like so many here tonight and the world over. Terms like the Troubles, the bombing campaign, Bloody Sundays and hunger strikes, respectfully confined to the pages of history and never returning to haunt us again. Hope is not just wanting peace, but wanting peace with justice. Hope is to heed the wisdom of a visionary who once trod and went on to renounce a path of political violence, stating, "The war is over. There's no future in the use of arms. That day is done. It's over and gone." And if someone that infamous can change, then there is indeed hope for us all. I say to my critic, do not condemn me for embracing the tenets of my Trinel prophet, who showed, despite his agonies, the forgiveness of his foes and the pursuit of everlasting peace, and made hope, dochas, a divine inspiration for us all.
It is an honour to be asked to talk in memorial of the families who lost their lives in the Birmingham Pub Bombings. I only wish that we could be together as we have been in previous years, but obviously this year it has to be different, and yet we're still here to remember. It is really important that we think about how those events shaped our city, and that we don't forget the lives that were lost on that fateful evening. As somebody who grew up in Birmingham, the story of the pub bombings is part of our history. It is something that is in the DNA of our city, and most people can tell a story about a family, a friend, somebody they knew who worked to help people on that evening, who were in town on that evening. And so it is an important part of our history, and for too long the lives of the victims were not memorialised, and I'm pleased to say that that is no longer the case, thanks to the brilliant work of the families themselves, of the Birmingham Irish community, and of all who've been involved in making sure that these events can go on. It's really important that we continue to gather, to remember, and to fight for justice, because what happened on the streets here in our city shouldn't be forgotten, and we should stand always in solidarity with the families who lost loved ones and still today have very few answers.
Good evening, and thank you to the Birmingham Irish Association for bringing us together for this virtual commemoration. We know that normally on the 21st of November we'd be coming together all at the memorial, but we couldn't do that this year, so I'm particularly grateful that the virtual event has still gone ahead. Because what we're remembering tonight was, of course, a terrible murder that occurred in this city 46 years ago, and our hearts always go out to the family and friends who lost loved ones. But it's also important tonight just to remember what we are thinking about, and particularly for the younger generations in Birmingham to remember, because the principle is so important, that everyone in this city has a right to coexist irrespective of their faith, their background, and no one should face the terrible incidents that we saw back in 1974. So it's quite right that the battle for justice has gone on, because that's the principle. Justice must always be done, and we must never, ever face a similar event again.
At the centre of this year's memorial service is a bell ringing ceremony. Tonight we are going to ring this bell 21 times in memory of those who lost their lives in the pub bombings.
The bell we shall be using tonight was inspired by John Donne's poem, No Man is an Island entire of itself, and that sums up the work of the Misneach group to help others, to give them hope. And the bell has been inscribed with the date of the bombings, and it has part of a poem I'd composed with, through the years of discord we sought harmony. Family members will be invited to ring a bell to remember their lost ones, and the bell is also to remember all victims of the Troubles.
Neil Tommy Marsh, 16. Paul Anthony Davis, 17. John Rowlands, 46. Michael William Beasley, 30. Stanley James Bodman, 47. James Caddick, 56. John Clifford Jones, 51. Charles Harper Gray, 44. Pamela Joan Palmer, 19. Maureen Ann Roberts, 20. James Craig, 34. Maxine Hambleton, 18. Jane Davis, 17. Lynn Bennett, 18. Stephen Wally Hunt, 21. Desmond Riley, 20. Eugene Riley, 23. Marilyn Nash, 22. Anne Hayes, 19. Thomas Chater, 28. Trevor Thrupp, 33. On behalf of the Misneach Memorial Committee, I would like to thank you for joining us for this year's service. First and foremost, we'd like to thank the families of the victims of the bombings. As usual, we're inspired by your bravery and your determination, and we are proud to stand in a spirit of solidarity with you here tonight. I would like to thank my Misneach colleagues, Maureen Slattery-Marsh, Rishdad Sinclair, for their hard work, and Maurice Malone and the Birmingham Irish Association for their support. Also, our local politicians, Jess Phillips and Andy Street, thank you so much for helping us with this year's service. Next year, we hope we will be able to come together again here physically to pay our respects to the victims of the bombings. Until then, although physically divided, we stand united in our determination to remember, and in a spirit of peace, hope and reconciliation, we hope you have enjoyed this year's memorial service. Thank you all and good night.